Garrett Crochet bouncing back so easily just further solidifies the fact that he's a true number one starting pitcher.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free. So make sure that you tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the show. As you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, I have a beautiful patio in my background. I am outside in North Carolina right now. The weather has been absolutely beautiful. Here I do head back tonight, so I will have my typical Red Sox stuff in the background for tomorrow's show. But the Red Sox won last night, and that was fantastic. Offense got going a little bit, put some pressure on the opposing pitchers early, and got some runs on the board early, which is something we haven't been used to seeing as of late. So that was really great to see, as well as the team being carried by Garrett Crochet, who had a beautiful bounce back start that I'm going to be talking all about on today's show, as well as a top Red Sox prospect getting called up because another key pitcher goes to the IL, as well as the Red Sox hanging on by a thread right now in the playoff race. So lots to discuss today, but last night's game, although it was late, was exciting. The Red Sox won 7-0. They were actually capitalizing in this game. They went 5 for 9 with runners in scoring position, leaving 4 runners on base. So they had a better overall offensive performance than what we've seen as of late. 12 hits in this game, and they really were able to pounce on the Athletics. And that was something that was really needed for this Red Sox team. They recorded their 80th win of the season. And Garrett Crochet also needed a bounce back start, and that was certainly what he got. He threw 7 strong innings, giving up 3 hits and no runs. He also recorded 10 strikeouts in this game. He threw 101 pitches with 70 of those going for strikes. He is now down to a 2.57 ERA on the season. He desperately needed a bounce back start like that because his previous start prior to that, he struggled. And it was so uncharacteristic of Crochet, but he looked a lot more like himself in this outing. He was consistently dominant in his first 23 starts of the season, going 13-4 with a 2.24 ERA, while avoiding a true blow-up outing for the first 4 months of the season, which is ace caliber stuff. However, the last 6 weeks of the season have brought 2 such occasions of a blow-up outing, and they just haven't been him. He had a poor outing in Houston on August 11th, giving up 5 runs in 4 innings. I meant against the Astros in Houston. And then against Cleveland last week, giving up 4 home runs and 7 runs over 6 innings. So those 2 outings in particular that you can pinpoint as clearly his 2 worst outings of the year can easily be viewed as just inevitable blips over the course of a long and wildly successful season for him, because no pitcher is perfect. Everybody goes through days where they struggle, and you can look at those 2 outings and say, yeah, they were just struggles. He just didn't have it that day. For sure, fair assessment. They might be viewed as a sign of his workload catching up to him, which is something that I've talked about pretty extensively on this show, that him throwing more innings in this season than he's used to throwing was a big factor. But that was a theory that was quickly dismissed by him and also anyone else in the Red Sox organization. To him, those 2 outings were just examples of him not hitting his standard, and it made him really angry that he threw the way that he did. He said from the outside, it's easy to look at it as a blip, but no, I was pretty pissed. I couldn't really pinpoint where it went wrong because I felt like when it did go wrong, it was the same thing that I did when I was going right earlier in the game in both starts. So Crochet, who between those two outings had 3 very strong starts against the Marlins, Yankees, and Orioles, still described himself as scuffling over a 5-start span. So he said, I have to get to work here. Connor Wong, who actually kind of miraculously fixed Aroldis Chapman and allowed him to be so successful this year, also noticed some mechanics that were out of sync with Crochet and told him to key in on fixing them. And the result of that was a dominant 7-inning performance in that win last night over the A's. And he just looked completely in control. So Crochet said big credit to Wong. A couple days ago, I was talking to him, kind of searching. I just hadn't been locating the 4-seam glove side. He got me on practicing the front hip glove side sinker just to make sure I'm fully extended on the pitch. It got my 4-seam back dialed in. He also went on to say, I felt like each pitch was very deliberate tonight, and I never felt like I was overexerting. I had a lot of energy left in the tank this late in the season, just happy I was able to make it through 7. So obviously he credited Connor Wong a lot, and there's something to be said for the fact that Connor Wong has now helped fix 2 pitchers on this Red Sox pitching staff. It really makes you wonder that that's the biggest reason why they want Connor Wong here, because he's used to working with these pitchers and he's good with making adjustments with them. And that was something that Crochet found to really work for him. His quality start was his 19th in 29 tries this season, and it lowered his ERA to 2.57 in a league-leading 185 and a third innings. His 228 strikeouts also lead baseball. So as dissatisfying as those Houston and Cleveland outings were to him, they were major outliers in what has been a truly tremendous inaugural season in Boston for him. And he's no doubt still an ace. And that's what aces do. They bounce back. They don't let a start like that, like the one he had in Cleveland, completely destroy their confidence. They fuel that as fire to do better the next time. And that's exactly what he did. And he went the opposite way, just had a completely dominant outing in last night's game. Trevor Story actually was talking about Crochet, and he said it changes everything to have an ace. A bona fide guy who's, in my opinion, the best in the game and competing for that Cy Young. Every 5th day he's posting. Whether on a hot streak or not, we feel like we have a really good chance to win. He's a stopper when it's not going good. When he's pitching, you feel really good about it. That can create a lot of momentum. Trevor Story has a lot of good things to say about his teammates, particularly this year. I've noticed he has really commended a lot of his players that he plays with and his peers, and he just really trusts Crochet to go out there every 5th day. And that's what you want in your ace. You want a guy who everybody can trust to go out there every 5th day and get the job done. Pitching in an unfamiliar location at the A's temporary home of Sutter Health Park last night, Crochet did face kind of a quietly dangerous lineup that is better than the team's 66 and 79 record would suggest, because they have some good young talent over there like Shea Langeliers, Nick Kurtz, who's having a phenomenal season, Brent Rooker, Jacob Wilson, and Tyler Soderstrom. Those are all kind of dangerous hitters, but nobody talks about them because it's the A's. So they've gotten to good pitchers throughout the season. For example, on August 25th, Tarek Skubal took a loss in Sacramento after being tagged for 6 runs, although 5 of them were unearned. But still, that shows that the A's were generating base runners against him and errors were taking place. And he allowed 2 home runs, including a grand slam to Langeliers. So 2 homers, including a grand slam. That's unlike Skubal, but it shows that the A's can put pressure on those types of pitchers. So both Crochet and manager Alex Cora mentioned the struggles of Skubal, which is Crochet's most obvious competition in the AL Cy Young race. They discussed that when talking about Crochet's dominance after that Red Sox win, because Crochet was able to keep the A's lineup at bay, something that Skubal couldn't do. He said coming into this start, I saw what they did to a lefty a couple weeks ago. I knew I had to be on my A game. And Alex Cora added to that and said, Skubal gave up a grand slam here. That's part of baseball, man. They're not perfect. They're going to give it up. That's how it works. When you start 30 games at this level, somebody's going to get you. So he was basically acknowledging Skubal's still a great pitcher, but it just wasn't his day. But the fact that Crochet was able to have a really dominant outing against that lineup is certainly telling. Crochet's 101 pitch performance last night ultimately silenced any doubts about his physical condition as the Red Sox head into late September and barring a late season collapse, the first round of the postseason in early October because, again, they are in a playoff spot, but they're hanging on by a thread. Alex Cora did say that the club has no plans to cut down on his workload or limit his pitch count in the final weeks of the regular season. Last night's outing was more than a small step in the right direction. Cora said he made some mistakes in the last one. They put some good swings on it, but it was just one bad inning. He went out there against a tough lineup and pounded the strike zone, had good stuff, and gave us more than enough. So the Red Sox feel really confident now in Crochet. I had mentioned that maybe the workload was going to be too much for him. Obviously, that's not the case. It was more mechanical. He talked to Connor Wong about it and was able to make some adjustments. So if you had any doubts about Garrett Crochet, don't anymore, because that was such a characteristic Garrett Crochet outing. And it was that dominance that we've been wanting to see from him after his last start was a little tough. So it was great to see him bounce back and go back to normal form. He'll still make his starts every fifth day as scheduled, and he will be that number one starter going into a playoff series. So hopefully he continues to dominate the way that he has, but I have no doubt that he will. And coming up, yet another pitcher has been placed on the injured list, but an exciting prospect will get his shot to pitch on the big stage. If you're ever looking to score last-minute tickets to an event, whether that's a sporting event, concert, etc., Gametime is the best place to look for tickets. I always use Gametime now because it guarantees the lowest prices and it shows you the view from your seat so that you know that it's not obstructed. It's great. Fees are also included, so you know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. It's the best ticketing service, I promise you. The Red Sox are coming off of a strong 7-0 win against the A's last night, a game in which the Red Sox offense was certainly on display. Nick Sogard got a hit as he was playing right field, first time playing in the outfield in his major league career, which was interesting. And this goes along a little bit with what I talked about on yesterday's show about Alex Cora kind of moving guys around to do what makes sense for the team. And for Nick Sogard, now that he's playing in the outfield for the first time, hopefully they start to acclimate him to that a little bit because Alex Cora is just continuously trying to utilize guys in different spots to see what works the best for them. And then Nate Eaton ended up coming in late in the game to play right field for him. But Alex Cora is trying out different things, and I like that. But Dustin May, who has had his struggles this season, has been placed on the injured list. And Red Sox top pitching prospect Connelly Early is being called up as his replacement. Dustin May was scheduled to start tonight's game after spending a brief stint in the bullpen, but instead, Early will make his major league debut, who was also scheduled to start for AAA Worcester on Sunday, but was scratched just before game time at the Red Sox's request because they probably had a feeling that this might happen or that they would need him up in Boston. So who exactly is Connelly Early? Well, he's appeared in 23 games between AA Portland and AAA Worcester this season. He's a left-handed pitcher who has registered a 2.60 ERA over 103rd innings. He's shown serious bat-missing ability, striking out 31.9% of opponents. And this is another thing that the Red Sox value as pitchers with good swing and miss stuff. So that's something that they definitely really like about Early. Much like fellow lefty prospect Peyton Tolley, he throws a flat fastball from a low arm slot that's really difficult for hitters to square up. That pitch in particular has returned excellent swing and miss numbers in the minor leagues. His changeup is his best weapon and should help him against an A's lineup full of right-handed hitters. He has good depth and horizontal movement, working in tandem with his fastball to punch hitters out. He has a 20.7% swinging strike rate in AAA, which is the best in his arsenal. So he does have a little bit more of an expanded arsenal, I'd say, than Peyton Tolley has. At least is a little bit more confident and stronger with his off-speed stuff, which is something that should seriously help him to succeed at the major league level. While the Red Sox will want to protect his arm, he shouldn't have too many limitations. Like Peyton Tolley was limited to about 75 pitches per start or so, whereas with him, it won't be that strict. His 103rd innings are just below a career high, but they won't cap him there. With 17 games remaining, he should only be needed 3 times at the most. His most recent outing was a 92 pitch, 6 inning performance, so pitch count isn't really a huge concern for him either. He's not currently on the Red Sox 40-man roster, so he'll require a spot. And with the 40-man roster getting full due to unexpected call-ups, an off-season trade of Rule 5 eligible players may be necessary to avoid losing talented prospects for no compensation. So lots of movement here for the Red Sox, but another prospect gets a chance to show off his skills for the second time in just a few weeks, the Red Sox calling up a top prospect. So Dustin May is going to the injured list, which is obviously the downside to all of this because it's exciting to think about the fact that Early is going to make his major league debut. But what does this mean for Dustin May? Is this a serious injury? And according to multiple sources within the Red Sox organization, it is not expected to be a serious injury. So the Red Sox are hoping that he can have a quick recovery and then return to the Red Sox rotation or bullpen, whatever they decide, as soon as possible. The only bummer is that they just acquired Dustin May at the trade deadline, hoping that he'd make an impact this year. He was acquired in a 3-player trade with the Dodgers just before the deadline, and he has struggled overall, allowing a 5.40 ERA over 6 games, with 5 of those being starts. The often injured 28-year-old got shelled in his last start on August 30th against the Pirates, and then he moved to the bullpen for a stretch. He last pitched 3 innings in relief against Cleveland last Wednesday. The Red Sox were expected to start Dustin May tonight and then figure out a plan for tomorrow's series finale, in which the team starter remains to be determined. So Early, since he was scratched from his start on Sunday, it was thought that he would make the start on Wednesday for the Red Sox, but instead will pitch tonight because Dustin May will not be able to. So what do the Red Sox do tomorrow? Well, they could go with a bullpen game. They could start Peyton Tolley again because he last pitched on Friday, or they could decide to call up Kyle Harrison and give him a shot because he has looked pretty good overall with the AAA Worcester Red Sox. So there are many options on the table after Crochet helped to reset the bullpen with that 7-inning gem last night. So the Red Sox do have options when it comes to how they handle this, but it's definitely a bit of a risk to take. They're relying on guys who don't really have major league experience to come in and essentially save the Red Sox rotation, because you have Garrett Crochet obviously as the number 1, and then you have Brian Bayo and Lucas Giolito, who also have both been solid this year. I talked about them on yesterday's show. So you have those 3 as your 1, 2, 3 in the rotation, no doubt about it. But then the 4 and 5 starters are questionable because Dustin May joins a long list of Red Sox pitchers who are injured right now. You have Patrick Sandoval, who's out for the year. Tanner Houck, who's now out for the rest of the year and probably all of next season too. You have Hunter Dobbins, who's missing the rest of the season. Those are all guys who could have filled in the rotation, and they no longer have Walker Buehler because they decided to release him. So if in an ideal world everybody was healthy, likely Tanner Houck and Hunter Dobbins would be in the rotation right now. But then they also have depth starters in Cooper Criswell and Richard Fitz, who are also injured right now. So it's just a lot of injuries that the Red Sox are going through right now, and it's hard for them to really make a decision on how to best go about handling it moving forward, because you have so many options that you could go with, and it comes down to, do they want to take risks and see what some of the younger players in the system can do, or do they want to try to just go with more of the sure thing and just throw bullpen games every 5th day? It's a hard spot to be in because the Red Sox do have to win baseball games. They are trying to clinch a playoff spot, so that's where things can get challenging, and it's frustrating because the Red Sox seemingly just continue to place people on the injured list when they're struggling. They've done it with so many pitchers over the course of this season, and you can just add Dustin May to the list of pitchers who have just been placed on the IL when they are struggling. And the Red Sox can't really afford to be dropping games like that because of the fact that all these pitchers are on the IL. And it is a little suspicious that the Red Sox haven't really specified on what Dustin May's injury is, which is why I have a theory that they're just kind of making up a bit of an injury because they don't feel confident in him making his start. So they're trying to fix him, if you will, by having him go on the injured list and work on some mechanical things when he's able to throw again, and then bring him back and hope that some of those issues are resolved. It feels like that's the route the Red Sox are taking here when it comes to trying to figure out his mechanics, but this is not the first time that they've done this. And while Dustin May is injury prone, which is exactly the biggest reason why I had an issue with them trading for him at the deadline, was okay, maybe they see something in him that they really like that they can work with, and that's fine. But my issue was more the fact that he can't really stay on the field. So if this is true that he is hurt, then I'm looking back at his history of not being able to stay healthy and saying, wow, is this even going to be a reliable pitcher for the Red Sox? And you have to wonder how they handle next season. Do they bring him back and see if they can get more productivity out of him than they got in these last couple months of the season after trading for him, because they don't want to admit defeat and admit that they gave up a couple quality prospects to get him? And they feel like they don't want to give up on him and show the fans there's definitely something in this guy that we like and you'll see in 2026? Or do they just say, okay, this experiment's over, we have better pitchers that can throw in this rotation, so we're kind of done with Dustin May? It could go either way, and especially with Tanner Houck likely missing all of the season next year, that's going to be a factor when it comes to the Red Sox building their rotation for next year. There's no doubt that they do need to acquire another solid starter, preferably a strong number 2 that can slot in there behind Garrett Crochet would be ideal, and then you stick with Brayan Bello as the number 3, and then you kind of figure things out from there. Do they want to bring Lucas Giolito back, or how do they want to handle that? Do they want to keep Peyton Tolley as a regular in the rotation? Is Kyle Harrison going to be part of it? So lots of question marks surrounding the rotation for 2026 and beyond. But right now they have to figure out what they see in Dustin May and where they see him slotting in, because I definitely do not trust him to make a playoff start right now. And that's an issue given that he was one of their 2 trade deadline acquisitions. So hopefully him being on the injured list can help fix him, if you will, and he comes back and he's strong off the mound, because we're really going to need that from him if this team wants to make a deep playoff run. And speaking of deep playoff runs, the Red Sox are kind of hanging on by a thread right now. So coming up, I'm going to be discussing that next. It's really hard sometimes to keep track of all of your finances. I know for me, I have so many financial accounts and I can't keep track of all the time when I'm actually spending money on. That's where Monarch Money came in and saved me. Monarch Money helped me to identify a lot of unnecessary subscription services that I was making money on that I didn't really need to be paying for. And now it's been a life-changing experience for me because I've been able to save so much money by using them. So you can do it too. It's basically an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. I promise you, you will feel so much better and organized about your finances if you use Monarch Money, and you'll know where your money's going, and it's just such a relief having a service like that. So make sure you check out Monarch Money today and take advantage of what it has to offer. We are getting closer and closer to playoff time, and the Red Sox are in a tough spot right now. They have been playing overall good baseball this year to the point where they have found themselves in a wild card spot, but it's not going to be easy getting to the end. These next few weeks of games are very crucial. The Red Sox can't really afford to be dropping lots of consecutive games. They have to just continue to play good baseball and continue to win, but that could be difficult because of how depleted this team is right now. They're missing some key hitters right now in Wilyer Abreu and also Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer, who's out for the rest of the season. And now Rob Refsnyder is day-to-day because he slid pretty hard into the base the other night in the game. So he was feeling a little bit of pain. It didn't sound like that was anything too serious and that he should be back soon. But the Red Sox have some key hitters that are hurt right now. And it's led to them having guys in the lineup that aren't exactly always productive. You look at guys like David Hamilton, Nate Eaton, and Nick Sogard. Sogard and Eaton especially just haven't had an insane amount of major league experience. There is some upside to them, especially Eaton, because of the fact that he has speed. And that's what they really like about David Hamilton too, is that he's super fast and he can put pressure on opposing pitchers with that speed that he brings on the base paths. So that's all something that the Red Sox value. And that's why David Hamilton has been able to kind of seen himself in a more regular role in this Red Sox lineup, because of the fact that when there's an injury, the Red Sox always think to call him up from AAA, because they say, hey, he might not be the best at the plate, but at least he has speed, which is something that this Red Sox team really values, is their ability to play small ball and steal bases. And then he gets sent back down if the Red Sox find themselves healthy. So from a lineup perspective, they're going to have to find a way to grind out hits. And we saw it in last night's game. The Red Sox were putting together some really aggressive and competitive at-bats, and it was leading to good results. They also got 2 home runs in the game, one from Carlos Narvaez and one from Trevor Story. So that helped the Red Sox a lot for sure. But at the same time, their offense has had a lot of trouble finding consistency. And that's been something that I've been concerned about with them, is the fact that they have so many times in which they can't hit with runners in scoring position. And when they are, it's so much fun to watch. But the problem is it doesn't happen consistently enough. And I would worry about that in a playoff series, is their lack of ability to have guys who can really step up in those moments. And Alex Bregman especially needs to get going again. He's been in a bit of a slump really for the last few weeks. So he needs to step up in this Red Sox offense with players hurt. And Wilyer Abreu, who's supposedly coming back next week, is going to make a difference in this lineup. He's been one of the Red Sox most consistent hitters over the last couple seasons. So he's somebody that can definitely help make a difference from a lineup perspective with this Red Sox team. So there's that. And then secondly, they just need to find a way to not swing for the fences all the time and not try to do too much. And that's something that I think they know, and they've been using that philosophy a lot this year, but it seems like sometimes that philosophy goes out the window. And that's something that I'm looking for them to not throw out the window and continue to utilize, because there's a lot of talent and athleticism in this Red Sox lineup. So if they can continue to play small ball and hit for contact instead of hitting for power, good things can happen when they get themselves on base. So I like a lot of what I see when they are hitting for contact instead of power. So that's one big thing. And from a pitching standpoint, I already talked about it a little bit, but they're kind of hanging on by a thread there too, because outside of their top 3 solidified starters, they don't really know on a day-to-day basis who their number 4 and 5 starter are. And obviously in the playoffs, that 1, 2, 3 is primarily the most important. And that's what they're going to be focusing on. And that means so much more added pressure on guys like Brian Bayo and Lucas Giolito to continue to pitch as effectively as they have been and not fold under the pressure if the Red Sox do make the playoffs. So that's one big factor that I'm looking at, is those 2 guys stepping up and really putting themselves in a position to where they can succeed in the postseason, because that's going to be your 1, 2, 3 punch there in a postseason series. But then after that, if they do make it past a wild card series theoretically, and they start getting into those series later on in the playoffs that are best of 7, they're going to need deeper pitching. And that deeper pitching could include rookies who are just getting called up, like Peyton Tolley and Connelly Early, and maybe even if they decide to give somebody else a shot in AAA down the road. So there's a lot of risks that the Red Sox are taking right now when it comes to this pitching staff. I think they're banking on Dustin May coming back and getting himself right, and then he would be that number 4 starter. If they were to need a number 4 starter in a playoff series, he would be that guy that would fall into that pattern behind those 3 that I mentioned in Crochet, Bayo, and Giolito. That's probably what the Red Sox are banking on. And then for their 5th starter, they would probably at that point, if they need that, go with Peyton Tolley. But in a playoff series, you typically don't go with a 5th starter, so that wouldn't really apply. So I think they're just hoping that the Red Sox can tread water and win games from now until the end of the regular season. And then they're hoping that they can get some reinforcements back, both from a pitching perspective and a hitting perspective, that can help make them a lot more competitive going into the postseason. So that's what the Red Sox envision for this team most likely, and they feel like they have enough right now based on who's healthy and the makeup of the players that they have, that they can win games down the stretch. And then they're hoping that when it comes time for the playoffs, they're able to say, hey, we can call up, a top prospect from AAA and not have it feel forced because we have no choice. If we feel like somebody's ready and they can make the expanded playoff roster, by all means, as opposed to we're calling up a prospect from AAA because we don't really have another choice and we're kind of backed into a wall here. So it'll be hopefully a lot easier for the Red Sox to build their postseason roster, assuming guys get healthy and can come back and return and contribute that are key aspects of this team. So we'll have to see how they build out this roster moving forward going into the playoffs. But the moral of the story here is just got to find ways to win games. Play small ball, hit for contact, not power. Focus on utilizing your best pitchers in the best spots and try to maximize the roster that you do have instead of dwelling on guys who are hurt. So we'll have to see how they do, but I appreciate you tuning in to Locked On Red Sox and always making it your first listen of every day. Make sure for your second listen to check out Locked On MLB Game Night, which is our local Locked On experts giving you analysis on a national scale. It takes place every game, every night, all the way up until a World Series champion is crowned. So you can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So make sure you check that out next. Like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.